Miss Anshul Verma, Director, Rohi Global, who shall be speaking on the topic Leading Organizational Transformation. With over 2 decades of experience in talent management, learning and development, and coaching, Ms. Anshul Verma is a versatile leader skilled in driving business transformation globally. Her background includes an MBA from Starchild Business School UK and multiple certifications. So, shall we all put our hands together and welcome Ms. Anshul Verma?
Everyone. I know now we are all struggling to keep our eyes open. And I'm going to try my best that you don't feel sleepy. So I'm going to keep it short, crisp. That's the best way to give you the consolation that you'll not have to try very hard. It's going to be just a little bit more, okay? So I just very purposely chose this topic, which is called leading organizational transformation. I think it's been extremely a great journey for me the past 25 years. I've had the privilege of working with some good brands after my B school at Strathclyde in Glasgow. I worked with Standard Chartered, I worked with Citibank, and I saw different roles that I did. So my first few years, about 7 years, were business. So while my last, I've also managed a P&L account, managed all those sales numbers for the largest region as a regional head. And I've always wondered that when I moved into learning and development, which was my finding myself moment, which was about 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I started thinking that, okay, I want to be on the other side now, to see people. I've seen processes, I've seen revenues, I've seen money, I've seen everything in terms of customers and this and that when you do a P&L. But what about the other side? And I have, of course, I don't have all the experience, but this is a very fascinating space for me because even within the talent leader role that I did with Lenovo, managing Asia Pacific, uh, what I realized is that as an LNOD talent leader, when the organization sets a vision, and we all know what's a vision, right? It sounds so good when it's set. It feels so good, and it looks so good, right? In faith, right? Because physically there's nothing. And I just want to say that when these visions are set, and then we say, okay, in 3 years we'll be here, in 5 years, and then what happens, right? So I want to ask you, first of all, the audience, even though we are L&D leaders or talent leaders or CXOs, CHROs, do you know how many kinds of transformation can one have in an organization? And it's not no marks for the right answer, wrong answer. I think just speak. We're all we're all friends, talking to each other, learning. So why don't you just share? How many transformations have you heard in your experience? Like I have heard some. And we use this jargon, and earlier one of my friends said, it's no more transformation, it's convergence. I mean, I loved it because that's exactly what I'm going to be presenting one of the models which McKinsey uses, which is called the integration approach. So McKinsey called it integration, and now we have come to a place where we are realizing it's a convergence. It cannot be that we are going to look at our customer service, our net promoter score or CAS score come from here to there, and we're going to run this, and now we're going to do digital transformation, which is the new buzzword. This transformation, that culture transformation sounds very good for an L&D leader to talk or an OD person to speak. So the point is, all said and done, how many transformations can an organization very practically have? Any thoughts? And you can just raise your hands. I can always bring the mic there. 2 minutes, 2 seconds. They'll just jump down, jump up. Anyone? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So that's true. While we try to solve a problem or try to move to the next level, and we don't call it change anymore, so when the change affects more than one function or needs more than one function, we give it a name transformation. But actually, the responsibility and accountability is still with that same function who's going to benefit. That's the sad story. And then you and I, the L&D folks, the talent leaders, are called to talk to the leaders, behavior change, and I don't know what all, coach. And we run into these lines of conversations because the organization's readiness to transformation is never measured. We never go through a diagnostic assessment of how ready an organization is for a transformation. Have you ever heard of that? We think of a HiPOT assessment, we think of even if you're some organizations, even one small person they're hiring, they do an assessment. But they never think of what is my readiness and preparedness for a transformation? Is my organization ready for a digital transformation? And then we run into problems. So we start with the 3-year vision, and then it becomes 5. And then we see some results, and then the focus goes to what the competition is doing or the new wave in the market. We start going and chasing that, and this one gets less attention. And the digital transformation officer is hired after that and said, listen, you are responsible for this because I'm not getting time to focus on this. And we are busy firefighting something else. So it's a very typical story of any Fortune 500 company. I think I've worked for quite a few of them. And they are not very different. They try hard. And companies with change, they survive. But companies which transform thrive. I think that's the difference between change. And I feel most of the organizations only reach to the level of change, not transformation. Because transformation essentially should be sustainable. If you can't sustain and something hasn't become from a bud to a flower, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, then how can you call it a transformation, isn't it? It's still change. It's a positive change and series of changes we are going through, which is maybe shorter, giving us the short-term results we need. So I want to today take you through a little bit of my experience. As I said, I don't have everything under the sun that I know about the topic, but I think it's something which I am very passionate about, and HR transformation or culture transformation. So according to Statista analysis, the data shows that the amount of money and investment that is going to be done globally in the year between 2022 to 25 is going to be frantically huge. It's going to move from 1.8 trillion to 3.8 trillion. Can you imagine? This is the amount all of us as organizations are willing to spend for something called transformation. And we still are trying to figure out the preparedness and what is transformation. What are we trying to change? Are we really going to be successful to the T that we have marked this money, such a huge money? I don't even know trillion, how many zeros it has, if you were to ask me immediately. So business transformation, yes, will be on the forefront in 2023. No doubt about that. I mean, we all know that. Because we're still trying to refine our hybrid ways of working. We are still at the same time responding to this whole urgent need of how do I battle inflation, how do I look at the supply chain constraints, there is geopolitics, there are wars, and there is a different environment. Talent shortage seems to be an issue, skill gap just seems to be wider by the day, and how do we cover all this ground? But these circumstances will definitely require a higher level of productivity. and higher level of performance. That's why every organization has something or the other that they are doing in terms of transformation projects. And we have nowadays even positions called transformation officer. How many of you have that role, which was not there a couple of years ago? Anybody who has a digital transformation officer? Or, yeah, see? This was not there, right, some time ago. So while we're looking at it, let me tell you something interesting, that in 2022, it was seen in research that 10 planned enterprise changes used to happen. That was the highest that people went through, as compared to 2016, which was 2. And these could be maximum achieving performance or achieving a different level of productivity, structural change, we called it transformation. Achieve efficiencies, we started getting some new processes. We want some technological stuff in, new technologies to be introduced, and it was called transformation. And we saw that 74% of people, employees, supported them. Today, where we are standing in 2022, as they did the survey again, they found only 43% are in favor of these so-called transformation projects. The employees, and it covers, employees are even all of us, right, are tired of this so-called transformation, because some of them just seem to go in circles. They just seem to be changed, and the amount of money, time spent, and the work-life balance which they feel it's being sacrificed is really not seeming, because it's just change management. It's not really transformation. And of course, while disruption and turbulence is a way of life, and I do resonate with the Bani environment we are operating in, but today's complex, uncertain, we do face challenges, right? And these are what McKinsey talks about, Harvard Business Review listed as the 6 key levers that we need to see when we are looking at transformation. And very simply put, what I really liked is that Gartner did a research, and this has not just come out. To find out, they interviewed 30 leaders of transformation and surveyed about 2,000 senior leaders and employees in 23 countries and 16 sectors. And they, of course, had some unsuccessful transformations. And what they found is that all the transformation projects that you run, at least 70% fail. And when they read it, the Gartner people, they just read it, the research, they find now it is still that 67% of the leaders said that they experienced at least one underperforming transformation in the last 5 years. So it's not that all transformation projects, while they look very fancy, see the sun every day, or see the sun in the next 6 months when it is declared that it is done. So let's look at the couple of factors or key levers that they have stated. So first is, this is like, I'm not going to play this out, but we all know leadership's willingness. If leadership is not willing, then who else would be? And a shared vision of success. So the key word here is shared. So sometimes what I've seen in my tenure, sitting in leadership conferences and meetings, is that the CEO declares the vision, and it becomes like all on fancy, glossy colors, and it's all over the organization. But the thing is, what about the CEO minus 2? Is the senior directors of a country-level organization, so fine, CEO was sitting in the US. He was all excited about it. But what about the others? Are they as excited as he is? And that's a very interesting question to ponder, that while we know the levers, everybody has this. Let me tell you, I've seen so many organizations, they have a project management tool they use to track it. They have everything under the sun, technology to support that we're not missing any implementation. But where the problem is the whole behavioral thing. Is the leader really as passionate as the CEO? And is he passionate for the next 3 years? Because no transformation, according to research, shows is complete before 3 years. It's only a version of transformation that starts budding. It's like a bud which is budding, and we start declaring it as a flower. But it's not a complete cycle of transformation because it needs time to reach there. And repeated, it needs to be cyclic consistent, otherwise it does not see it. I think this was something which I wanted to share with you, which is that I work for this biotech company, which is today a Fortune 100 in the Fortune 100 companies. And they had this lovely mission of vision of the leading digital science company. They make analyzers, scientific analyzers, and things which you use in hospitals and for research and that kind of high-tech equipment. And as they did, they were all excited. And this is their CEO, by the way, Mark Casper. And there was a whole list of, so it is not that the vision was not shared. It was not that the success, it wasn't broken down. No, it is not that. But everything, digital experience was something which was really highlighted. And expand and innovate our digital experience. So they were looking at things that now we should be able to see what's happening in a lab on my iPhone. I don't really have to go to the iPhone to check the results, what the machine is showing. That's the level they were looking at, to give that kind of customer experience. And while they were doing this, I thought we really started well. And the vision was always 2030, 2030, and we were still in 22. At 22, we achieved a target of revenue which was declared for 2025. Sorry, so what I saw was that in 2021, we were showing the revenue target which we had declared for 2025. And we got all excited that we've nailed it. But what about the preparedness for the transformation? Are we ready to be a digital company just because we got the number? And that's where most organizations sometimes miss it. That just because you've got an early flag, an early victory, an early mountain of revenue achieved, does that mean your organization is ready for a transformation? So we called it a transformation, and we had a huge list that we declared for ourselves. We said we will do Make in India project. We'll set up a factory in India. We will not import from the US. We said we'll do digital science company we'll do superior execution, and these were. And guess what? We were basically like in Australia where we had taken over, or as we say, it was a company which always kept buying companies. So we had taken 40 acquisitions in 8 years. Can you imagine the culture issue? Can you imagine even people understood the way of working, what our values was? It was so siloed. And then we came to a place where we were learning to dwell with each other as these small acquisitions. And in the midst of that, we are trying to gun this. So obviously, it slowed down. In no time did we see that it slowed down. The digital transformation was not happening while the revenues and profits were increasing. Well, that is because the business strategy is right. You went to the right markets, not because your digital transformation project is succeeding. And the interesting part is, what do I do to have a more sustainable? And this is just one of the organizations. I'll show you another one that I work for in the last. So this is a very simple thing that I came up with, which is just a Venn diagram, kiddie stuff. Even my 4-year-old nephew can draw this. And I feel the transformation happens here. When we achieve individual effectiveness, that is, I'm willing to self transform, 3 minutes more. Self transform when I'm willing to look at team effectiveness, which is how is my organization, how are we teamed up, how do we work together? Are we working in an agile work style, which is that we are open for feedback, we are open to all the time look at Kaizen, continuous improvement? Do we have that culture? Or is it only pockets of our organization which is having that culture? And are we working towards building that culture? Because if I would have done a preparedness check, then I would not have to do a damage control, right? Damage control is when you realize that, my God, the vision is not cascading down. It's not becoming a way of life for a middle manager or a first time manager. Why? I did my onboarding right. What happened then? This is another one which is organizational effectiveness, which comes from several parts. So just a little bit of a glance to how important it is for me to look at individual effectiveness as self-transformation. This is again from a report which shows average length of time a skill is usable, like your products. Today, skills have also become products, right? And this is what the research of McKinsey says, that how the skills are mapped: trade skills, soft durable skills, hard technical skills, and which are the skills which are in demand, as we say, the power skills, and which are the ones which actually are running out very quickly. So upskilling and software updation is very important. Otherwise, our machines are, the skill gap is a reality. And of course, individual effectiveness, I think I'm not going to spend too much because you've seen this in different versions, in different colors, and different formats, to just see the power skills and the most relevant skills which have changed. So if you see the last 2 years also, which were the skills that we were promoting, these are very different. Now, what is team effectiveness? Very quickly, I'm just going to show you each one of them, that today we're not looking at profit, we're looking at impact. We're not looking at how we create value as a planner, but we say go beyond the competition and to co-creation. That's the model. So are your teams doing that? Do they know what it means, that mindset? No competition, it's co-creation. As a controller, how do we get work done? Because I'm a manager, right? So it is all about control to evolution. And as a director, how do we organize ourselves? Command to collaboration. So the whole philosophy today, according to McKinsey, and this is again a research which I tapped into, is changing if you are really going to become an organization which is ready for transformation, no matter which one. Whether it's culture, whether it's digital, whether it's anything you choose. And of course, as a professional, what is the individual doing? Expectation to wholeness. And as we do that, as we move into that mindset, we see that the organizational effectiveness on the, if you just see the outer circle and the inner circle with the mission and the purpose in the center, rolls really well. It wheels really well. It's balanced. It does not have these slag moments in the transformation project. It does not have a lag. That suddenly we were all excited, all the leaders were talking about it, we were having regular meetings, and now everything is quiet. Because some progress we've shown, but is it that we've managed to nail change management, or is it that we've really nailed transformation? And another thing that I'd like to bring to you is, while I was showing you one model, the other one, which is very scientific again, is by McKinsey. They talk about the 3 axes that we have to work on, not very different from the other one, which talks about the 3 axes, which is top-down directional setting, but also bottom-up. So most organization, the vision or the goal for the transformation comes from the leaders. But what about bottom-up? We need to involve the managers. We need to involve the middle managers to be able to execute, because the execution is sitting there, not the visionaries. And also the third part, the core process redesign is impossible unless and until every level of the organization understands, involves, and does its part in a transformation. So organizational transformation cannot happen. And I'll close with this, my last slide, which is an example again. Uh, I work for a hardware company, IT hardware company, as an Asia Pacific Talent L&D OD leader. So the organization, again, like many organizations, wanted intelligent transformation. Yeah, very nice. 3S strategy. 3S strategy means from hardware, we want to become smart IoT, smart infrastructure, smart industry verticals. We want to get into these three. We don't want to be known as a hardware company. We want to move to services and solutions in very simple terms. Good idea. And their metrics were also defined. Penetration rate, service revenue, service customer base, and expansion of the tower 1, tower 2 tier. So our people are only selling laptops, they should start selling services. And the revenue ratio should be 50-50, right? And we should give them separate targets on service selling and sales, hardware selling. We did all that. It was all structured. Still, we saw we are not doing it after a while, because 8 months we saw that our penetration rates, because the L&D team designed this academy and we started training our salespeople on accelerated services adoption program, where we started teaching them each service, assessing them, training them on consultative selling skills, again taking their pre-test and post-test and making sure it's all in there, and that too during COVID. We saw in 7 months that our penetration rates were wow. I mean, it was high. People getting certified through the stages, the penetration rate from 3.8 went to 7.3, and we were jubilating. But the minute we jubilated, I thought we caused trouble to ourselves. Because that's when another initiative was launched where they started talking it cross-product selling. Cross, and the whole attention went there. And the poor middle manager is lost now. So my sales leaders, sales managers, we had peer coaching, we built sales coaches. It was a lovely, successful program for 9 months. But what happened is the minute you had a One Lenovo initiative, which was trying to converge different parts of the organization and sellers selling more than what they know to sell, the whole thing again went on a slack. We had no support of managers, people were not completing their modules on time, they were not being able to pass the exams in one go, and we had to keep escalating and be the bad cop now. So ladies and gentlemen, these are very small initiatives. I've not yet had like a technology or a digital transformation project for, like a 20,000 people company, but this is like a 4,000 people company, Asia Pacific, 11 countries, and language is different. But I'm asking you that have you ever thought that transformation really means convergence? And how, as talent leaders and L&D professionals, can we drive that convergence? Because there are so many advantages of. And now I have her who's a little impatient with me. So if you have any further questions, I'm outside and would love to have a chat with you more than this. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Anshul. We are just on a fill out the feedback form and give it out in the production desk or in the registration desk, as this would be a learning and development experience for each and every one of us.